Hello and welcome to Infinity Idiots. Something a bit different today. I am going to be doing a Malifaux primer. So what that means is I'm just going to talk a little bit about the background, a little bit about the factions, but only a small amount, and I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the stats and the mechanism of how the game works. So hopefully this is a nice little way of people being able to get into Malifaux a little bit better than just diving in with no other background. Malifaux is set in, I suppose we could say, an alternate Victorian time, in which a portal gateway opens up into another dimension. As far as the fluff goes, this is known as the breach. Breach into another world, if you would. On the other side of this breach is a land. We never find out if it's a whole full planet or if it's just some sort of crazy extra dimensional floaty thing you see in some fantasy sci-fi type movies. But anyway, humans settle there, and one of the main reasons they settle there is because of some stone known as soul stones. So these soul stones possess the ability to allow people to access, for all intents and purposes, magic. They've been used to power machines, so there's a big leap in the technology of the Victorian world because everything's now powered by these soul stones. So the way the soul stones work is that when something dies near them, that they absorb the essence, and that is what happens. Now, everybody wants some, and in the fluff, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you want, there is a podcast called the Breachside Broadcast, which covers all of the first edition fluff, which is a good way of learning about the world for free as well. The portal closes, the breach closes, and then the soul stone started rationing, people start fighting over it. But then it opens up, the breach opens up again, and that is sort of at the stage we're at, where the humans have repopulated the Malifaux world, and they're trying to collect soul stones and all that. It is a mixture of Wild West, horror, fantasy. It's almost impossible to put into a particular genre because it just has so many different facets of everything, so it's quite unique in that way, both in the fluff and also in the kind of, but we'll touch on that later. So that is a whistle stop tour around Malifaux, and now we're gonna have a quick look at the factions. So first up, as far as factions go, we have the Guild. Now the Guild are the governing body of Malifaux. They control the law, but really they are just about controlling the soul stones and getting them over to Earth, and that is how they stay in power. They also protect the human populace from the various entities within Malifaux. So you have the Neverborn, you have the Resurrectionists, you have the Arcanists. So the idea is they are there to protect the populace, but really it's to protect the soul stones. So next we have the Resurrectionists, and as the name implies, they are about bringing back the dead. Various means, so you have people reanimating corpses, you have people bringing ghosts onto the board. But yeah, they are magic users, and generally they are not the nicest people to be around because generally they stink of death. But they have some of the most powerful summoners in the game as well. Next up we have Neverborn, who are the original inhabitants of Malifaux, and they cross a multitude of monsters as far as the humans go. So you have the Nephilim, which are demons for all intents and purposes. You have nightmares, so living embodiments of things that go bump in the night. You have woes, who again are about emotions, but sorrow, and in fact there's actually a model called Sorrows. but they are just trying to get rid of the humans. So in a way, they are the good guys, in a very twisted way. Next we have the Arcanists, and the Arcanists are a group of dissidents who are trying to get rid of the guild because they want to get rid of what they view as the tyranny, and also they're not allowed to practice magic while the guild is there, so they have to do it in a clandestine way. And then the sort of the forward-facing image of the Arcanists is the Miners and Steamfitters Union, which are trying to protect the workers who pull out the soulstones to the guild, because obviously it's a horrendous place to work. But that's the idea, but obviously they are just trying to get the soulstones as well, really, if we're honest. But think about the resistance, the underground movements, just trying to mess with the guild. Sometimes they're seen as popular, but sometimes they're not, because they are portrayed as terrorists as far as the guild are concerned. So next we have the outcasts, and these are literally outcasts, where they're the mercs, they're the people or things that don't fit into the other factions, and literally a hodgepodge of different sorts of characters. And they also have a lot of named models, because they're all they're very much individuals. So anybody sort of wanting the mercenary side of things, then the Outcast is the place to be. Next we have the Ten Thunders. So this is the Oriental flavoured faction, and they are a group that is trying to get power for the kingdom back home, known as the Three Kingdoms, on the other side of the breach. You actually find that because they've infiltrated a lot of the other factions, that they have a lot of dual factions. That means that's a master who can potentially play in two different factions. Obviously they've got a strong Oriental feel across the factions, so you'll see ninjas, you'll see Oni, you'll see that sort of feel. So anybody with an Oriental bend when they want to play miniatures will definitely be liking the Ten Thunders. Then last but definitely not least is the Gremlins, the best faction in the entire game alongside the Outcasts. Not that I'm biased. They are also original inhabitants of Malifaux alongside the Neverborn. There is a suggestion they may just be a subspecies of Neverborn. But anyway, so these guys are little gremlin goblin things that are very unpredictable. When you play them, you will find that they can do horrendous damage to themselves and to you, but you will never leave the board without a smile on your face after playing with or against gremlins, and they are just awesome. Not that unbiased at all. Obviously, if you want to learn more, there is the Breachside broadcast for the fluff from Mark 1. If you want to learn a bit more about the models, there's the Pull My Finger wiki. There are plenty of podcasts out there like Malifaux. You also have the Facebook community, the social media community, so you have the Weird Place and the Bridge on Facebook. There is a load of Malifaux players on Twitter as well, so it's worth checking them out. So with that, we are now going to go have a look at some of the mechanisms and talk about some of the stats. So you actually now go to video. So catch you on the flip side. So welcome back, and as you can see, these are the 4 suits from the deck you have in Malifaux. So you have masks, tomes, tombs, books, depending on how you want to say it, crows, rams. So these are all important because it's dependent on the triggers, and you may need a specific suit to hit a target, but we'll get back to that when we look at the stats. So you can use a standard deck of cards. The rulebook does show you what hearts and diamonds actually considering these. Now what a Malifaux deck has over a normal deck is the jokers are different in this game. So you have your 13 cards for each suit, 1 to 13, but you also have the red joker and the black joker. As you can probably gather, the black joker is pretty bad. So the black joker, if you flip it, actually equals 0, and it doesn't have a suit, so it is generally a bad thing. Whereas the red joker is on the opposite end of the scale, and it is amazing and awesome because it counts as a 14, so it's the best card in the game, and it can be any suit you wish. So if you're looking for a specific suit, the red joker can be that for you. So that is a very quick run through on the cards, and we will then go look at the stats. So welcome back, and now we are going to look at the stat cards. So in this case, this model, which happens to be a Ronin, these are the basic stats on the card. So you have DF, which is defense, WP willpower, WD is wounds, WK is walk, CG is charge, and HT is height. So what this means is, when you are doing a duel against somebody, or if somebody's trying to hit you and they're targeting your defense, you flip a card and you add your defense stat. So the higher the defense, the better, because you're harder to hit. Likewise with willpower, some models do target willpower. You also have to consider horror, but we won't cover that in this video. Wounds is how many times you can take wounds, so again we'll cover that. Your walk is how far in inches you can move for 1 AP. The CG is when you charge, is how far you can move on your charge, and height is how high you are in inches. So the height is done, all the heights in the game are done on in inches. So a wall might be 1 inch, 3 inch, 2 inch, and so depending on the height of the models trying to look at each other will dictate whether they can be seen. Generally all models have 2 AP, so they can do 2 things a turn. Charging is obviously 2 AP, but you get to move a little bit further, but then you can only hit the model you charged, but you do get to hit them twice. So a model with 2 AP for this, in this instance this Ronin, can move 10 inches for their 2 to 2 AP, and it's a alternate activating game, so once the Ronin goes something else will go. Also on the front of the card is the abilities. So the abilities are things that the model has built in, and generally they don't have to do anything to have. So you know, this model can't be disguised. This model has disguise, so it can't be targeted by a charge. So you know, she's very pretty, so you can't charge her because you're going, oh hello. So yeah. So then on the back of the card you have both attack actions, tactical actions. So an attack action is something where you're attacking somebody, whereas a tactical is something that can be more dependent on, it can help you in certain ways. So as you notice when I was talking about triggers with the suits, for instance with this sword, the Malifaux, so that's the stat they use against the model's defense, and the model also has a range of 1 inch, so you don't have to get into base to base to hit models with close combat weapons. You have a range on the weapon, and so if you manage to flip a ram, that means you, if you're successful when you're damaging, you get an extra bonus attack. So there are many different attacks and suits triggers in the game, which is what this is classed as, so this is a trigger. So something else to bear in mind is with the damage, you can see there's 3 numbers there, so it's 1, 3, 4. The way that works is when you flip a card, 1 to 5 is considered weak, which is first number. 6 to 10 is moderate, which is this middle number, and then severe is 11 to 13, which gets you your big number, which is a fair amount of damage. So then, tactical actions, again, when I was talking about you need a suit, so you've got a cast of 5, the TN, the target number, is 12 of rams, and obviously range is 12. So, if you manage to flip a 9 of crows, this wouldn't happen because you've not succeeded and got the ram as well, so you would need to cheat in at least a 7 of rams to succeed. Obviously, if the ram was also there, then the suit is already counted in the casting value, which is CA. So then you would only need to send 7 of anything. So with that is a very quick look at the cards, and now we're going to go look at some actual interactions and how we go through a duel. So welcome back, and in this section we are going to have a little battle between some steampunk spider swarms and also a little gremlin. So we're going to have the stats for the cards we've already got. So each player has a deck, and each player has a control hand. So at the start of the turn, every turn, you will draw yourself up to 6 cards. So the Steam Arachnid has a pretty horrendous hand. A 3 to 1, a 3 to 4, the black joker, and a 2. So not a cracking hand for the spider. Whereas the gremlins have been a little bit more lucky and managed to get themselves the red joker, a 13, an 11, an 8, a 5 and a 2. So some high cards as well as some low cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend, so everything in the game is pre-measure. So what we're going to pretend is the gremlin with the shoot of 4 from this card is targeting the spiders, and the spiders have the defense of 5 that we said. So the 5, and the gremlin is shooting at the 4. So what we do to start with is both players flip a card. So the gremlin has flipped an 11, whereas the spider has flipped a 2. So that means this. So we add the value of the card to the value of the stat being used. So 5 plus 7, 5 plus 2 gives us 7, whereas the 4 plus 11 gives us 15. So the spider is losing, and if we look at the spider's hand, there is nothing there to even help us. So at 7 against 15 gives us a difference of 8. So if I put down the 4, just for argument's sake, that actually makes the difference 6. Now this is important because the difference in the dual totals will affect the flip from the cards for the damage. So a difference of, again, like we said with the actual damage flips, with the severes, moderates and weaks, a 1 to 5 difference is seen as a lucky hit, so you will actually have a negative flip. So we'll talk about negative flips in a minute. But then 6 to 10 is a straight flip, so it's just one card, and then anything above that is a positive flip. So the way they work is a negative flip is 2 cards, you have to take the lowest value. Positive flip, flip 2 cards, you have to take the high. You can choose the value. You don't necessarily need to take the highest, specifically if you're chasing after a specific suit. So what that means is, with this example, is the Gremlin has quite spectacularly hit the Gremlin. So, because the difference is 6, so 4 plus 5 is 9, 4 plus 11 is 15, so difference of 6 means a straight flip. So we end up with a 1. Now that's not right spectacular, because that basically means in this instance of, whoops, nudge the card, is we have 1, 3, 4. So it's because it's a card between 1 and 5, we're only doing 1 damage, but because we have that straight flip, we have the chance to cheat. So because it's not a negative, if it was a negative I wouldn't be able to do this, because obviously it's seen as a lucky hit, so you're not getting the advantages to being able to cheat, because that's the way it works. And it works for any duel, that. So anytime you're on a negative, then you are not going to be able to cheat from your hand. So the Gremlin is feeling very brave. So the Gremlin's going to go, I want to do a lot of damage. So the Gremlin cheats in the red Joker. Now what that means for the Gremlin is he has spectacularly hit the spider and done quite a lot of damage. So the way the red Joker works on a damage flip is you get a severe, but you also do the weak damage at the same time. So where the example was 1, 3, 4, we take the 4, the 1, so we end up doing 5 damage to the spider, which is very painful, very, very painful. But that does mean the red Joker's out. So obviously the black Joker actually does no damage. So if you're unfortunate enough to flip the black Joker, even if it's a positive, the black Joker trumps all, and you end up having to do no damage, because again black Joker is 0, so you do no damage. So you could get a spectacular hit off, and if that black Joker appears, then you're not doing any damage. Likewise, if you get the red Joker on a, say, negative flip, the red Joker trumps, so you can still take the red Joker on a negative flip. So this time the spider is going to try and have a swing after the beating he took. So we're going to flip some cards. Uh-oh, the Gremlin has flipped the black Joker, whereas the spider has flipped a quite impressive 12. So what that means is the defense of 5 plus 0 means only 5. And because it's the black Joker, there is no more cheating involved. Whereas the spider has managed to hit a 12 with the 6, takes it to 16. So I guess 16 against 5 is 11, which means for the damage, we get 2 cards because it's a positive flip. Oh, look at that. So, if, for instance, we had managed to get those 2 cards, because I managed to fluke that and not stack the deck properly. So we have a moderate, because it's 6 to 10, and 11 plus is a severe. So in this case, we can decide which one we want. Obviously, because this is damage flip, we're going to go for the 12 and discard it. So we've done severe damage to the Gremlin. Something else to point out as well is once deck cards have been played, they go into your discard pile. And at the end of the turn, this discard pile gets put back into your deck, ready for the next turn. So that was the Malifaux primer. Hopefully that was some use to all the new players out there. If you are interested, please comment below and let me know if you want me to cover some more of the other rules in the Malifaux system. So we've got a whole collection of videos. If that interests you, please let me know. And thank you for watching.